Hey, in today's video, we are going over the TSP decision. At retirement, what do you do with the TSP? We've got a new book out on the 10 decisions you must make. You have to make at retirement that could make or break your retirement, and the TSP decision is an important one. My name is Mel Stubbs. I'm a financial planner with Christy Capital Management. And in today's video, I'm going to be joined by Joe Matthews and Tommy Neesmith as we discuss the TSP decision. Stick around.
All right, we're going to move forward with decision point 4, and that's the TSP decision. Mel, what are some ways that you can access your TSP?
Yeah, there's two main ways that you can access it. One of them is at retirement. As long as you're retiring over the age of 55, you can access your TSP without any kind of 10% penalty, that type of thing, or at 59 and a half. So even if you're still working, at 59 and a half, you can access your TSP. You can take a distribution, you can roll it into an IRA, do some other planning, that type of thing. So it's 59 and a half and 55.
So Mel, you've told us kind of when you can access the TSP, and that 59 and a half is kind of a magic number. As you look at planning, a lot of our clients are older than 59 and a half, still maybe working for the federal government, and allowing them access to it to begin doing those financial planning pieces that bring massive value to them and their families throughout retirement is really key, making sure they're aware that they can take those funds at 59 and a half and begin to have control over them and utilize more diversified options outside of the thrift savings plan if it's appropriate for their plan. And so that's really key. But there is a drawback to some of the things that TSP offers. One of those is this thing called pro rata distributions. Can you take us through that and maybe an example?
Yeah, so with pro rata, as you take a distribution, let's just say you've got 50% of your TSP in the C fund and 50% in the G fund. When you take a distribution out, let's say I want $1,000 a month to be sent to me. $500 of it's going to come from the G fund, $500 is going to come from the C fund. Well, what's the big deal? Well, if you remember way back 2008 when the stock market just plummeted, during that time, you don't really want to sell the C fund if you don't have to. You'd like to kind of let it come back, and it did come back. But during that time, when you're taking those distributions, you can't say, hey, TSP, only send me my $1,000 from the G fund. They don't let you do that. It comes out pro rata. In an IRA, you have control. You could take the distribution from where you want to in an IRA.
Yeah, that's good, Mel. Thanks for sharing that. And it's key to make sure that we're taking distributions from the right place in the right time. And it may change. It's a 2008 great example as you go through that. And so the next thing is we talk about this thing called taxes. We keep talking about taxes, right? But Roth conversions currently aren't available inside the thrift savings plan. Now, there's been a law change, and beginning in 2026, they're going to allow Roth conversions to take place. But there is kind of a drawback to that. And so they're going to allow inside of thrift savings plan for Roth conversions to take place beginning in 2026. But here's the but. You always got to watch the caveat. You are not going to be able to pay the taxes with the investment funds inside of TSP. So if you do Roth conversions inside of TSP, you're going to have the cash outside of the thrift savings plan to pay the IRS the taxes. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing, but oftentimes having that cash readily available can really prevent you from doing Roth conversions. And so in the IRA world, that's not the case.
Yeah, you can withhold taxes from your IRA if you'd like to. I know the IRS will be happy. If you follow the TSP rules, potentially you do the Roth conversion and you don't withhold the taxes. Next April, the IRS gets mad at you because you didn't pay enough, and now you got to go on quarterly filings, and it can be a headache. So being able to withhold taxes can be a stumbling block for people. So we just want to make sure you're aware of that as you're looking at what to do with your TSP.
Yeah, I think one of the main takeaways, though, if we had to pick one planning idea for federal employees that it can really make the biggest difference in their retirement, and it would be Roth conversions are powerful.
Yeah, I mean, can you think of another strategy or tactic where you can save somebody $300,000, $400,000, like over a lifetime as your TSP gets bigger and bigger, and it forces you to take money out? The tax savings can be huge, and I can't just readily think of another strategy that can instantly just save that much money over your lifetime. It's a key thing to be thinking about.
It is. Tax planning, Roth planning, making sure that's in order, especially for federal retirees, is key, and it is one of the biggest things that you can do, and it's very powerful. And so we've talked about some of the distribution options. As we continue to talk about the thrift savings plan and federal employees, one thing that we often tell our clients or we go over with them is, let's look at your beneficiaries. Let's make sure beneficiaries in order. And it's key, because when you talk about who you want this money to go to, oftentimes people go, I've got a will. And that's good. You need a will. And if you don't have a will, please make sure you get that up to date. But the beneficiary form on accounts such as thrift savings plan, IRAs, any type of investment accounts are going to trump the will in most cases. And so making sure your beneficiary forms are in order is super important. And Joe, as we talk about beneficiaries inside of TSP, what are some ways or some things they can be looking for to make sure that they have everything in order like they want?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Tommy. So as we look at designating your beneficiaries, the first thing that you want to do is make sure you've got a primary beneficiary of your TSP. If something happens to you, that primary beneficiary will inherit that TSP, and they will be able to take distributions from that as needed. But one key thing here is that for their beneficiary, when that primary dies, then the second beneficiary does not have the ability to control how they receive the money. They receive the money in a lump sum, and a lot of times those individuals may be in a fairly, a sizable tax bracket, and then they will inherit all of this TSP and have to pay taxes immediately on this lump sum of money. Therefore, it's just giving the government more money than what they should have had at the beginning. So in the IRA world, as we look at IRAs, we can name a contingent beneficiary. That contingent beneficiary will receive those taxable funds over a 10-year period. So they can look at their individual plan and strategize what is most efficient for them in planning on utilizing this money.
Yeah, that's good, Joe. And real life example of that last year was working with an individual whose wife was a federal employee, and she passed away. A very sad situation, devastating. And so he was the primary beneficiary of that account. And so he had a beneficiary account inside of the thrift savings plan. And as we were sitting down reviewing things, they had a daughter. And he says, I want to make my daughter the beneficiary. And I said, that's no problem. You can do that. Here's the form to go about doing that. Go online, update this. I said, but you need to realize that if something happens to you and your daughter now inherits this TSP, she is going to have to take it all out and pay taxes. And if they're not in a high tax bracket that year, they're going to be that year. Because in some cases, you're talking $5, $6, $7, $1 million inside of a thrift savings plan that someone would inherit and have to pay taxes on that. That could really, really, really be frustrating to the individual. And so in the IRA world, that's not the case. As you said, we can make sure that things are in place and you get to receive more of the money, or the people you love get to keep more of the money that you've left to them.
So just to restate it another way, the TSP, you the federal employee, you pass away, your spouse gets it, they can open up a participant TSP account. Everything's good. Taxes are postponed, all is good.
Right.
Your spouse dies, they leave it to somebody else. That person is not allowed to open up a TSP participant account. Can't do it. They have to move the money outside. And when I say move it, I don't mean roll it over. They have to take a taxable distribution, all in 1 year, all taxable. That's huge. I mean, we're going to talk about tax planning in a minute. We're trying to minimize taxes. Having your child take out $1 million all in 1 year is going to get taxed harshly. Like, that's not what you're wanting. It's not what you're planning. And so that is something that in retirement, as you're getting older and beneficiaries and how it transfers becomes more important. This is a big drawback for the TSP, in my opinion, in that you might get overtaxed, or I guess your secondary beneficiary might get overtaxed if it's not handled right. This is something you can fix in an IRA.
Yeah, and to dive a little deeper in that on the IRA, can you explain how an inherited IRA works?
Yeah, so with an inherited IRA, if you pass away and your spouse inherits it, they can roll it into their own personal IRA if they want to, or they can open up an inherited IRA. There's a few different reasons why you might pick either one. work with somebody, work with a professional that knows. But let's say you're leaving it to a non-spouse. They've just changed the rules recently where there's now a 10-year period. So you leave somebody $1 million. They've got 10 years to take the money out. And so do you want to wait all 9 years and take it out in the 10th year? That probably doesn't make a lot of tax sense. So you may want to be taking out even amounts throughout the year. But the key thing is you've got a 10-year window. Back in the day, you could stretch an IRA for 30 or 40 years and take out a minimum amount for kind of like forever. Now they've shortened the window. The IRS has shortened the window, and by doing that, it's going to cause you to take larger distributions that are taxable if it's traditional. And so this is a real change from the way it used to be, and it is somewhat of a drawback to beneficiaries.
Yeah, thank you, Mel. And so I think really the key point here is that the beneficiary participant account holder cannot die with a TSP account without putting the new beneficiary at risk for higher taxes. And that's something no one wants to do. And so make sure you do work with a professional and sit down and look at the tax implications of things. Leaving money to people you love is very important. Leaving as much money as you think they're going to get to them is equally as important, if not more.
Yeah, and I've heard Mel say this before too. If we allow things just to happen by default in the way of tax planning, then you're going to pay too much. Mm-hmm. So just proper planning.
Just to keep our compliance person happy, you might pay too much. Without planning, you might pay too much.
Yeah, might pay too much. There you go.
Hey, well, there you have it. I hope that discussion on that decision was helpful. It comes from our new book going over the 10 decisions you have to make at retirement. It's available on Amazon. There should be a little QR code here. Make sure if you want to go more in detail, you want to reach out and get it, make sure you do so. If you need individualized help, you want to talk to us, feel free to do so. Right up here, there's going to be another video that's important to your planning, so make sure you check it out.